Hello, hello. My name is Kat Moulton, and I used to feel lonely, anxious, and misunderstood due to some life experiences that were painful and traumatic. But now I feel more connected, relaxed, and whole because I learned how to become my own best friend and see myself and others in a new light. This shift in perspective is part of what I call the loneliness antidote. According to Dr. Lissa Rankin in her 2016 TED Talk, loneliness is as dangerous for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. She shared that loneliness is the #1 health problem that people face today. Let that sink in because this was pre-coronavirus pandemic information. And then the world got flipped on its head and people were really isolated and felt more lonely. As a healer, this image she painted really struck a chord in my heart. I had started leaning more into holistic health again back in 2006 after a really challenging time with postpartum depression. It was many months after my third child was born. I was misdiagnosed, mistreated, and it led to a really, really big ripple effect of misunderstanding in my family, a lot of problems, other challenges that we faced, and created a lot more self-doubt and anger and shame than had ever existed before. That time was pivotal in my life because it also reignited my interest in holistic health. I hadn't agreed with the assessment, and I had the courage somehow to shift that. And I studied nutrition and wellness, and I learned so much more about energy healing. I had eventually become a certified health coach and a life coach. And I've done a lot of other work since then. And I have formed the belief that our emotional and our spiritual well-being is vital to feeling connected in here and complete, and although it matters what we put in and on our body and how we treat it, how we feel trumps all other aspects of health. It makes the biggest difference. So learning how to love ourselves and accept ourselves, regardless of what we've been through, it's important. And that emotional unrest that some of us feel, especially when it comes to loneliness, is a place to start unraveling and get in touch with how we really feel and how we want to feel, and lessen the stresses that have gone on in our lives. So we're living in a time of a great divide, and it's an exciting time with so many accessible options for optimal health and wellness, for financial opportunity and global connection. Yet the epidemic of loneliness that Dr. Rankin talked about, it continues to expand. There are stresses post-coronavirus pandemic situations, financial uncertainties, politics in a changing world, this comparison-itis that we have towards one another, it leaves many people feeling more lonely and anxious and sometimes even more broken than they've ever felt before. I've had conversations with people who share their vulnerabilities about some of this and their deep sadness about it. Why is it? Why are there so many people on the planet feeling this way? When we are in such physical, close proximity with others, we still feel alone. Choosing to spend time alone is so different than feeling alone. And part of it is because we've become so busy and we've disconnected. We've become too competitive, too judgmental. It leaves little space for understanding and observing and allowing the differences that we have to exist. And we start to turn it inward, and we also judge ourselves. It's very isolating. When you weave in feelings on top of that of guilt, shame, anger, fear, sadness, or even apathy, it creates a baseline in us that the state of loneliness just grows, and what people tend to do is hide their real feelings from others because of it. And it causes doubt. And it's not fun, right? For my friends, it seems like a lose-lose situation when we go into those feelings. If we could shift that, if we could learn to become our own best friend and allow the more difficult or uncomfortable feelings to exist and flow through us, we may find that we connect to others at a more deep level, in a more authentic level, as we do that for ourselves. We tend to get stuck sometimes in righteousness. And the more we do that, the more separate we become and the more toxic it can be. I had been in a sales training back in the mid-90s, and we were asked a question. It said, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And I was like, no one had ever asked me that before. And I kind of adapted that along the way over my life to, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to feel connected? So some of it's about letting go and letting go of that toxicity of feelings. In Dr. Gabor Mate's new book, The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture, he writes that 60% of Americans anticipate family holidays with dread. That's huge. So if you are feeling any of that dread or you're feeling lonely during the holidays or at any time, know that you're not alone. Doesn't mean it's okay and it doesn't mean it's healthy, but the question then becomes, how do we shift all of this? What is the antidote to feeling so lonely or so separate? One of the answers I have for you is to eradicate shame with witnessing and understanding. Because one of the most common emotions behind loneliness, like when we get under the hood, is shame. Shame is one of the lowest resonating frequencies on the map of consciousness. And when we feel shame and we resonate in that isolating, unsafe place, we hide who we really are from people. We feel this not enoughness and we don't connect. We might have thoughts like, if she, he, or they knew who I really was, they wouldn't like me. If they knew what I'd done, they wouldn't be my friend. They couldn't love me if they knew what happened to me. Have you ever felt that way? Sometimes those feelings or thoughts can be normal to feel, but it's when we hold on to them and they get inside and unsettle us and disconnect us is when they become a problem. We want to let them move through. So I have an acronym that I use for that, and it's called WET glue. It's like the glue that holds our humanity together, and each letter stands for an antidote, if you will. And I just want to touch on two for this, and it's the witnessing that I mentioned and the understanding. These are two ways that we can become our own best friend. We have to get to a place where we stop judging ourselves and begin to honor ourselves and accept ourselves regardless of what we may have been through. People have, all people, the deep desire and need to feel both seen and heard and for who we really are. But we live in a culture that's become increasingly judgmental and critical. It's very hard to do that. Mistakes are seen as bad, and our differences and our fears are used to divide us. This is very disheartening. So we want to learn to witness other people for who they are. But before we can fully do that, we have to do it for ourselves. So I find that witnessing an antidote to loneliness. This quote by Osho says, "Be less of a judge, and you will be surprised that when you become a witness and you don't judge yourself, you stop judging others too. And that makes you more human, more compassionate, and more understanding." I get chills when I read that. When we say that one of the most common emotions to loneliness is shame. We want to bring in that witnessing, that understanding, so that we can all feel connected and feel better. And we shift. It's about shifting our vibration, shifting our energy. When I talked in the beginning, that shift in perspective from how we've been programmed to how we really might want to show up. We don't have to keep practicing any self-loathing. And it's not really about self-help or self-helpery either. It's about self-acceptance and self-forgiveness. So we stop judging ourselves and stop judging others in turn. That really shifts our energy and our vibration, and we start to attract people who feel how we feel and feel what we want to do. And so ask yourself a couple questions. Can you witness yourself? Can you look at yourself in the mirror and see yourself? Can you love yourself just as you are, regardless of what you've been through or what you've done or what's been done for you to you? And can you also offer yourself understanding? Because understanding really is that antidote to shame. I love quotes, and here's another one. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning to understand, because to understand is to be free. It's by Baruch Spinoza. I don't know about you, but I have fumbled through life at times. I've made many mistakes, and I put myself in a cage of judgment, and I didn't feel free. So when we can turn that understanding towards ourselves, just like turning the witnessing and the allowing, we can turn that towards other people in a more beautiful way and show up really differently. So how do we do all this? How do we start to become our own best friend and witness and understand? We can start with meditations. There's so many steps, and I want to invite you to do a quick guided meditation with me right now. I want to invite you, if you're comfortable, close your eyes and place your hands on your heart and just breathe. Notice your breath and listen to the sound of my voice. And settle in. Remember a time when you felt seen and heard and understood and loved unconditionally by someone. If you can, just think back to a time when there was no judgment or shame, but it was simply love and acceptance, where you felt free, where you felt whole. And if you are having trouble remembering a time like this, it's okay. Just begin to imagine what it would feel like for you to feel accepted, to feel safe, to feel comforted. When you felt free to be who you really are, to show up in the world as yourself, notice what that feels like in your body. Notice if you feel relaxed, if there's any particular sensations or emotions that come up. Were you being hugged? Were you being smiled at? Did someone touch your face or your arm gently in a loving way? Allow yourself to feel all the good feelings that come up from that memory. Just remember that at any time, you can call those feelings back to you. All you have to do is close your eyes and take a breath. And remember those feelings in that time, and it helps shift your energy and your mood, right? And I'm going to invite you now to remember a time when a friend hugged you or a person you loved hugged you and you felt better. Notice what that feels like in your body. And again, you can recall these feelings at any time. In your hand that's on your heart, or if you moved it, I'm going to invite you to take that hand, both your hands, and wrap them around yourself and give yourself a big hug. Offer yourself a hug. That hug, that feeling that someone else gave you once. Become your own best friend and hug yourself. Take your arms and rub them up and down your arms. And just offer yourself some comfort, some understanding, some of that unconditional love. And remind yourself that you are seen and you are heard and you are whole and complete, just as you are. Notice what that feels like in your body. And to ask yourself, what do I need to do to become my own best friend? What would fill me up? How would I treat myself? How would I love myself? How would I honor myself? And ask yourself, what do I need to let go of to become my own best friend? Are there certain feelings or emotions or situations or people that you need to let go of if you were to honor yourself as your best friend? If you haven't already, release your arms and open your eyes gently and come back into present time. And I invite you to whatever you felt came up in that meditation or that guidance, to take action on it. What would you do to become your own best friend? If any of this intrigues you or you want to learn more, you can click on the link for the free gift. I am giving away the original draft of the whole Loneliness Antidote. There are 2 video recordings that are 30 to 40 minutes apiece, and a written excerpt of the whole W of witnessing that includes 5 or 6 reflection questions to really get in touch with yourself. It also has a mantra. It has a practice that you can do for yourself. And it also takes it to the next step and offers a suggested compassionate action in a way that you can connect more deeply with other people. So that is my gift to you this holiday season during this wellness summit, this journey that you're on. I hope that it supports you. I hope that you feel more connected to yourself and to others people and have a wonderful season. Thank you for watching.